3 entire Roman legions vanished in 3 days. 20,000 of Rome's finest soldiers marched into a German forest and never came out. This wasn't just a military defeat. This was the moment the unstoppable Roman Empire learned it had limits. And those limits were drawn in blood across the dark forests of Germania. The year is 09 AD. For decades, Rome has been expanding relentlessly across Europe. Julius Caesar conquered Gaul. Augustus became the first emperor. The Mediterranean is a Roman lake. Egypt bows to Rome. Britain trembles at Roman ships on the horizon. The legions seem invincible, their discipline and organization crushing every tribal army they encounter. Now Rome sets its eyes on Germania, the vast wilderness beyond the Rhine River. The Romans see the Germanic tribes as barbarians, primitive warriors living in mud huts and worshipping strange gods in sacred groves. These tribes fight with raw courage, but lack the sophisticated tactics and equipment of Roman legionaries. Roman generals believe conquering Germania is only a matter of time and proper military organization. They've already established forts east of the Rhine. Roman traders move through Germanic villages. Some tribal leaders even send their sons to Rome for education, learning Latin and Roman ways. Emperor Augustus wants Germania pacified and turned into a proper Roman province with roads, cities, and tax collectors. He appoints Publius Quinctilius Varus as governor of Germania. Varus is a capable administrator who previously governed Syria and Africa. He's married to a grandniece of Augustus himself, making him imperial family. Varus arrives in Germania with 3 full legions, the 17th, 18th, and 19th, along with auxiliary cavalry units. That's roughly 20,000 professional soldiers, the kind of force that conquered half the known world. Varus begins his work immediately, establishes Roman law, collects taxes, and settles disputes among the tribes. Too many Germanic chieftains, this feels like occupation disguised as civilization. The Romans build their characteristic fortified camps, their soldiers drilling in formation while Germanic warriors watch from the forest edge. Varus believes the region is already pacified, that the real work is simply administration. He trusts several Germanic auxiliary commanders who serve in his army, men who seem completely Romanized. One of these trusted allies is a young chieftain named Arminius. Arminius is everything Rome wants in a conquered ally. Born into the Carusi tribe around 18 BC, he was sent to Rome as a hostage while still a boy, a common practice to ensure tribal loyalty. But in Rome, Arminius received the best military education the empire could offer. He learned Latin fluently, studied Roman military tactics, and earned Roman citizenship, an extraordinary honor for a German. He even received equestrian rank, making him part of Rome's social elite. Arminius served in the Roman army with distinction, commanding Germanic auxiliary units on distant frontiers. He fought for Rome and Pannonia, and proved his loyalty on multiple battlefields. Roman commanders praised his intelligence and leadership. Varus considered Arminius a friend, a shining example of how barbarians could become civilized Romans. Arminius dined at Varus's table, advised him on Germanic customs, and helped mediate disputes between Rome and the tribes. The governor trusted him completely. But beneath this Roman exterior, Arminius burned with secret hatred. Despite his citizenship and rank, Romans still saw him as a barbarian, a useful tool but never truly equal. He watched Rome systematically strip his people of their independence, their customs replaced with Roman laws, their gods mocked as primitive superstitions. The taxes Varus collected bled Germanic villages dry. Roman soldiers took what they wanted from Germanic women. Tribal chiefs who resisted disappeared into Roman prisons. Arminius realized something crucial during his years in Roman service. He understood exactly how the legions fought, their strengths and vulnerabilities. He knew their marching procedures, their camp layouts, their tactical doctrines. He'd studied their greatest weakness. Romans were nearly invincible in open battle on level ground, where they could form their disciplined lines. But they struggled in broken terrain, where their formations couldn't deploy properly. The dense Germanic forests, with their narrow paths and limited visibility, were the one place Roman military superiority meant little. Around 07 AD, Arminius made his decision to destroy Varus and his legions, but he couldn't simply attack. 3 legions would crush any frontal assault. He needed deception, patience, and perfect timing. He began secretly meeting with other Germanic chieftains, men who also resented Roman occupation. He proposed an alliance and a plan so audacious it seemed impossible. It would annihilate an entire Roman army. Late summer of 09 AD arrives. Varus's legions have spent months at their summer camp near the Weser River, deep in Germanic territory. The governor plans to march back to winter quarters west of the Rhine before autumn storms make travel impossible. His 3 legions prepare for what should be a routine march, the kind Romans have executed thousands of times across their empire. Soldiers pack equipment, checking armor and weapons. Supply wagons are loaded with food and camp materials. Then, Arminius brings urgent news to Varus. A distant tribe has rebelled, he reports. They're attacking Roman allies and need to be punished immediately before the rebellion spreads. Arminius knows the rebels' location and offers to guide the legions there quickly. It's slightly off the direct route to the Rhine, but the detour isn't extreme. Varus doesn't hesitate. Crushing rebellions is standard procedure. Letting one go unpunished invites others. He orders the march. Several Germanic nobles who serve Rome try to warn Varus. Segestus, another Carusi chieftain, and Arminius' own father-in-law, explicitly tells the governor that Arminius is plotting treason. But Varus dismisses these warnings as tribal politics and personal grudges. He trusts Arminius completely. The young chieftain has proven himself loyal for years. Besides, 3 full legions with auxiliary units make up an unstoppable force. What tribal rebellion could seriously threaten them? The Roman column begins moving in early September. 20,000 soldiers, plus 10,000 camp followers, including families, slaves, and merchants, stretch for miles along narrow forest paths. This isn't a compact fighting force, but an administrative migration. Soldiers march alongside wagons carrying supplies, personal possessions, even furniture. Women and children walk between the military units. The column moves slowly, making perhaps 10 miles per day through increasingly difficult terrain. Arminius rides with Varus at the column's head, playing his role perfectly. He explains they must take this particular route to reach the rebels quickly. The path leads deeper into the Teutoburg forest, where ancient trees block out the sun and narrow trails wind between hills and swamps. Arminius periodically rides ahead, supposedly checking the route. In reality, he's coordinating with thousands of Germanic warriors hiding throughout the forest. Everything is ready. The Romans march directly into a killing zone 15 miles long. The first attacks come like summer rain, light and scattered. Small groups of Germans emerge from the forest, throw javelins at the marching column, then disappear back into the trees before Romans can respond. These aren't organized assaults, but harassment, slowing the march and creating confusion. Varus orders his men to maintain formation and keep moving. He still doesn't understand what's happening. These seem like normal bandit attacks, annoying but not dangerous to a full army. But the terrain grows worse. The path narrows between steep hills and boggy ground. The Roman column stretches even thinner, units losing contact with each other. Communication becomes nearly impossible along the miles-long line. Wagons get stuck in mud. Soldiers must stop to push them free, creating gaps in the column. The Germans attack these gaps specifically, killing isolated groups and vanishing before help arrives. Then the weather turns. Cold autumn rain begins falling, growing heavier throughout the day. Within hours, the forest path transforms into a muddy nightmare. Soldiers slip and stumble. Wagons sink axle-deep. The rain soaks through clothing and equipment. Roman shields, made of laminated wood covered with leather, become waterlogged and heavy. Bowstrings go slack. Metal armor grows slippery and difficult to grip. The entire column slows to a crawl. Germanic warriors increase their attacks as Roman mobility decreases. They know this forest intimately, every path and hiding spot. They strike from the trees and hillsides above, hurling spears and shooting arrows down into the trapped column. Romans try to pursue their attackers uphill into the forest, but quickly become separated from their units, easy targets for ambush. German tactics are perfect for this terrain. Hit fast, kill quickly, then retreat before the Romans can organize a response. Night falls with the columns strung out and disorganized across miles of forest. Romans try to build a fortified camp, something they normally do expertly every evening on the march. But the rain, darkness, and constant German harassment make proper construction impossible. Soldiers throw up hasty earthworks and huddle behind inadequate defenses. They're cold, wet, exhausted, and increasingly frightened. Many have already died in the day's fighting. The camp followers, civilians with no military training, are terrified. No one sleeps well. German war cries echo through the dark forest all night. Dawn brings no relief. The rain continues. Romans break camp and try to continue toward the Rhine, but they're now in complete chaos. The careful legion formations that make Roman armies invincible have dissolved. Units are mixed together randomly. Officers have lost control of their men. Soldiers focus only on staying alive, not on organized military maneuvers. Supply wagons are abandoned as everyone realizes mobility matters more than possessions. The Germanic attacks intensify dramatically. Arminius has assembled warriors from multiple tribes, his own Carusi, plus Brocteri, Marsi, and others. Perhaps 15,000 to 20,000 German fighters now swarm through the forest. They've prepared this battlefield carefully, blocking paths with felled trees and digging concealed pits. Romans march directly into these prepared obstacles, while Germans attack from all sides simultaneously. Roman soldiers try to maintain their legendary discipline, but it's impossible. They can't form the tight formations that make their tactics effective. The shield wall, the cornerstone of Roman military power, requires level ground and space. In this forest, visibility is 20 feet. Soldiers stumble through mud and undergrowth, unable to see threats until Germans are on top of them. Germanic warriors use long spears and clubs perfectly suited for forest fighting, while Roman short swords designed for close formation combat offer little advantage. Varus finally understands he's been betrayed. Arminius has disappeared from the Roman column. The governor tries desperately to organize a breakout toward the Rhine, but it's too late. The Germans have herded the Romans into a valley with steep hillsides and swampy ground. It's the perfect killing field. Warriors line the hilltops and rain projectiles down onto the trapped legionaries. Romans try to climb the slopes and drive off their attackers, but the muddy hillsides are nearly impossible to ascend in armor, while Germans simply retreat higher, then return when the Romans slide back down. The slaughter becomes mechanical. Romans collapse from exhaustion, wounds, and despair. Germans move through the Roman column, methodically killing soldiers, capturing standards, and seizing equipment. The legendary Golden Eagle standards of the 17th, 18th, and 19th legions fall into Germanic hands, symbols of Rome's humiliation. Camp followers are enslaved or killed. By the third day, organized Roman resistance has ceased entirely. Small groups still fight desperately, but the army as a coherent force no longer exists. Varus realizes his army is destroyed and decides not to survive the disgrace. Following Roman military tradition, he falls on his sword, committing suicide rather than facing capture. Several of his senior officers do the same. The Germanic warriors find Varus's body and decapitate it. Arminius reportedly sends the governor's head to Maroboduus, king of the Marcomanni tribe. Hoping to recruit him for further wars against Rome, Maroboduus, cautious about Roman retaliation, allegedly forwards the head to Rome, where Augustus gives Varus a proper burial. A handful of Romans escape. Perhaps 3,000 or 4,000 soldiers from the original 20,000 manage to fight their way through the forest and reach Roman forts on the Rhine. They arrive in terrible condition, wounded, traumatized, and carrying stories of complete catastrophe. These survivors tell of watching their comrades slaughtered helplessly, of legionary standards captured by barbarians, of 3 entire legions ceasing to exist. The Germanic victory is absolute. Thousands of Roman soldiers are killed outright. Others are captured and face horrific fates. Archaeological evidence discovered centuries later reveals the extent of Germanic vengeance. Captured officers are sacrificed to Germanic gods in sacred groves. The Germans nail Roman skulls to trees as offerings. Bodies are left unburied, a spiritual insult Romans consider worse than death itself. Equipment is scattered across the battlefield as the victorious Germans strip the dead. Arminius becomes an instant legend among the Germanic tribes. This Roman-educated warrior has done the impossible, destroyed 3 full legions using Roman tactics against Rome itself. His betrayal is the most successful act of military deception in ancient history. The Germans capture enormous amounts of military equipment, armor, weapons, artillery, siege engines, and most importantly, the legionary eagles. Losing an eagle standard is the ultimate Roman military disgrace. Covering lost eagles becomes an obsession for future Roman campaigns. The battlefield itself becomes a sacred site for Germans and a cursed place for Romans. The forest swallows thousands of bodies. For years afterward, travelers report seeing bones and rusted equipment scattered through the trees. The exact battle location is forgotten for centuries until modern archaeologists using metal detectors rediscover the site near Kalkreis, Germany, finding thousands of artifacts that confirm the ancient accounts of this catastrophic defeat. News reaches Rome in October 9th AD and creates absolute panic. Emperor Augustus, now 72 years old, is reportedly shattered by the news. Ancient historians record him wandering his palace at night, banging his head against walls and crying out Quintilius Varus, "Give me back my legions." The psychological impact equals the military disaster. Rome's sense of invincibility evaporates instantly. The empire that conquered the Mediterranean world has met enemies it cannot defeat. Augustus orders emergency defensive measures. He posts guards throughout Rome to prevent riots. He extends the terms of service for all soldiers to prevent the army from shrinking. He worries Germanic tribes might invade Italy itself. The emperor, who spent his reign expanding Roman power, now focuses solely on defending what Rome already holds. The three lost legion numbers 17th, 18th, and 19th are never used again in Roman military history, a permanent memorial to the disaster. Rome attempts revenge. In 14 AD, Germanicus, Augustus's adopted grandson, leads massive campaigns into Germania to recover the lost eagle standards and punish the tribes. He partially succeeds, recovering 2 eagles, but the campaigns prove Rome cannot hold Germania permanently. The forests are too vast, the tribes too fierce, and the cost in Roman blood too high. Emperor Tiberius Augustus's successor eventually orders all Roman forces to withdraw behind the Rhine permanently. The Rhine River becomes Rome's permanent northern frontier. Everything east of it remains free Germania, never Romanized, never conquered. This changes European history fundamentally. If Rome had conquered Germania, as it did Gaul, German culture would have been Romanized like French culture was. Germanic languages might have evolved into Latin-based Romance languages. But Teutoburg Forest preserves Germanic independence. The cultural and linguistic division between Romance and Germanic Europe traces directly to this battle. Arminius himself doesn't live long to enjoy his victory. In 21 AD, merely 12 years after his triumph, he's assassinated by his own relatives who fear his growing power. But his legend never dies. Centuries later, Germans rediscover Arminius as a national hero. In the 1800s, they build a massive monument to him near the battle site. Today, he's remembered as Hermann the Liberator, the man who stopped Rome's expansion and preserved Germanic freedom. The Battle of Teutoburg Forest remains one of history's most decisive defeats, the day Rome learned even empires have limits.